As a matter of fact, there was one night, some of you guys may have seen the picture, we were in London and Jordan and I and Majid Nawaz, who you probably know, had dinner at Douglas Murray's flat. That's apartment in Londonese. Yeah. And we had dinner there, and you know, one of the rules is it the 12th rule, maybe the 11th rule about petting a cat if you see one on the street. And it really, what he's saying there is, you know, don't forget to stop and smell the roses. So Douglas had a cat, and we're in there for about 3 hours. We're eating, we're drinking, we're having a great time. And I noticed about 3-4 hours in, and I had plenty of drinks, I was like, I don't think Jordan has pet this cat. And I was like, if he doesn't pet this cat, the guy's a fraud. Like, and I couldn't, and then, you know, like, then we're like 5 hours in, I'm really drunk, and I'm like, is this guy gonna pet? I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, if he doesn't pet this cat, like, I'm on tour with the biggest fraud in the history of the world. Anyway, we're saying our goodbyes. Jordan gets on the ground. Now, Jordan's really tall and lanky. He gets on the ground and sits with the cat, basically sitting in the cat's bed, you know, just like little flat bed, and just try, I mean, you can picture it, because you can sort of picture Jordan's hands and just petting the cat. And I thought, all right, the gig goes on. We're gonna be okay. Yeah, he's a great guy, and he's the real deal, and he's serious about his ideas, and I'm a better person for having done the tour, truly.
Yeah, good for you. The thing that fascinates me, I see this a lot when people have opinions. It's very easy to, it's difficult to state an opinion that you know is going to be against the grain. Yeah. And you know that, I wouldn't say it's controversial, but you know the person saying it feels it or knows it as fact, believes it as fact, and then they kind of stop. And I think that's just one other note I want to make from that interview, where it's like, you know, he would say something and stop, and it's just so not accepted in society to say some of the things he would say without like, but you know, this and this, or, you know, I believe this. That's an opinion. I mean, he just would say it.
Well, the irony, of course, was that every time the media would try to sandbag him and try to destroy him, which we saw many times, you guys may remember that one of the biggest moments was when the New York Times wrote that piece that Jordan is for enforced monogamy. Remember that? And everyone made it sound like he wants to basically make women slaves, and we're going to be in the Handmaid's Tale. Enforced monogamy just means marriage. It's been, if you look, actually Eric Weinstein checked, and on the New York Times archives, the only other 2 references to enforced monogamy are positive references about marriage, that marriage is a fundamental building block for a Western society. It causes us to reproduce and have familial bonds and all of these things. But the more they attacked him, by him just keeping his cool, and this is a good lesson for any of you guys if you're ever going to be brave enough to say anything you believe in, the more they attacked him, the more he stood his ground. And he would say, you know, by nature, I'm not a combative person. And that's hard to believe when you see these people that are in these fights constantly. But he would stand his ground, say what he believes, and say simple truths. I'm not against trans people, but the government can't tell me what to call somebody. I'm for marriage. I mean, you know, basic stuff. And if you do that, and you don't lose your cool, well, he's a worldwide phenomenon, and those things go hand in hand.
Yeah. So I want to go back to, you know, we talked free speech kind of as a broad tent, but I want to talk, you know, specifically a lot of the students in the room and kind of this campus culture of free speech. You know, you see a lot of comedians that won't go to campus just because of some of the backlash and the current environment that's been created. So one of the things that I really think is missing amongst the libertarian and conservative crowd is this idea that we continue to say campus is biased, campus shuts down our speakers, they don't recognize our student organizations, they don't let us get rooms, you know, to actually have speakers or meetings, but then we don't do anything about it. And about almost 4 years ago now, you know, we launched a program called the National Fight for Free Speech campaign with the idea of saying, let's stop just complaining, let's figure out what are these bureaucrats and the college administrators doing to shut down our groups or to shut down speakers. And, you know, you have certain campuses need to get a permission slip to go out and do activism and talk to people. A lot of them will charge the outrageous security fees to bring speakers, right, to campus. And I love how you say that, it's the new one, because what happens is, and these are typically, you know, liberal campus bureaucrats, somebody tries a new code or a new policy and it works, and then all of a sudden you see other people picking it up. Well, we used to, when we're trying to combat them, we will try to purposefully do an event that is against the code. So let's say they have these free speech zones, right? They say, okay, listen, it's a public school, we're supposed to uphold the First Amendment, but just to protect everyone, we have a small zone, it's the size of, let's say, an iPhone on a tennis court, right, if that's the campus, and this is where you're able to speak freely. Well, we will purposefully do an event outside of it. And it's funny, we used to do a free speech wall. The university said, it's a fire hazard, right? I mean, they're very smart, they're maniacally smart, these administrators. So then we, to push back, now we do free speech beach balls, these giant beach balls we roll around campus. But we do these events, but it's crazy to me that college administrators will shut down not controversial opinion. I mean, they do that, and I don't believe they should be doing that. But we have students who have handed out pocket constitutions. They've gotten arrested and put in jail. The document literally has the First Amendment written in it. So what do you think is what do you think has caused this authoritarian belief? And do you really think it's that administrators want to protect students?
No.
Or is it more of a control thing?
No, it's neither. It's actually, it goes back to the core of what I talked about are the factory settings before, and it goes back to what has happened with the modern left that in academia more than anywhere else. I mean, this is where this whole horrible set of ideas of postmodernism took root, and all of these people know, the administrators and the faculty know, if they, except with a few exceptions, University of Chicago is pretty good on it, and there's a couple other schools that are fighting for free speech, but they know as an administrator that if they dare stand up and defend Ben Shapiro's ability to come to a school, I mean, look, the idea that Shapiro, whatever you guys disagree with him about is fine, the idea that he's a controversial speaker is completely bananas. Shapiro probably, I would guess, agrees with, you know, policies of Ronald Reagan probably 99%. Now, you may not like some of those policies, that's fine. But the point is that it was mainstream conservative thought only, you know, 25, 30 years ago, something like that. But they know that if they dare step up and fight the monster, well, the monster will come for them. So that also goes back to why I know that a Bernie will eventually be eaten by this thing. It's a constant movement of destruction. It's not about creation. There was a video, I'm sure some of you guys saw this, I spoke at the University of New Hampshire. It has a couple million views. And before the event, right before the end, about an hour before, they said, we can't secure a room on campus. Apparently I'm so controversial that they could not secure a room. Now, so they had to take it off site. So we had, I don't know, maybe 400 students there or so, and it was sold out for the size of that room. It was 400 people in a 400-person room. There were more people that wanted to get in, they couldn't get in. But then they said, we can't secure the room, so they moved us to the local hockey rink, which sat 10,000 people. So I spoke for 400 people in a 10,000-seat arena, which is extremely bizarre. But I don't bring that up because I'm talking about the numbers as much as they already said we lost. If a university says we cannot even secure our own campus, they have already lost. And then, you know, the protesters come in and, you know, they scream that I'm not for free speech or I'm a bigot and a Nazi and the rest of it. One of the girls kept calling me a homophobe, which my husband has no idea. You know, it's like, and you know, the best part of that one, and if you haven't seen this, it's on YouTube. Just search Dave Rubin, New Hampshire, saying, there was a woman in the back screaming at me that I hate trans people. She kept saying I hate trans people, so I said, I just want to be very clear about my feelings towards trans people. I want them to be treated with the exact same dignity and respect and the exact same laws, under the same laws that everyone else has to be. I said specifically to her, I made sure to look at her, I said, I hope that you have someone that you love in your life and you found happiness in all of these things. And then she called me Hitler and a Nazi and all that, blah, blah, blah. But the best part of this, I did not know this till weeks later. It turns out that she was a gender studies professor at the university. I mean, really, when you think about how deeply corrupt, so you have a faculty member of a really made up, you know, it's not a real set of ideas, right? It's not. But it could have just as easily been an economics professor or whatever else. The idea that they are literally there shouting down speakers And you know, I don't want you guys to mob her or anyone else watching this to mob her. It doesn't even matter. It would be nice, I suppose, if the students of the school did something. But that she felt empowered enough because of her place in the intersectional scale that she knew she could go to an event, scream down to a speaker, try to silence a speaker, and know that she'd have complete impunity. And no matter what I said, I mean, that's the other thing. I offered her every piece of goodness that I had to say, I don't know what our differences are exactly, but I certainly don't hate you, and I certainly don't hate anyone because of their identity. But that's the weird state that we're in. And I suppose that it'll probably keep getting worse because I don't know if you know this, but we're in an election year.